2 Samuel 16. And David had passed on a little from the summit and saw Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, who met him with a couple of saddled donkeys, and on them 200 loaves and 100 cakes of raisins, and 100 summer fruit, and a skin of wine. And the sovereign said to Ziba, "Why do you have these?" And Ziba said, "The donkeys are for the sovereign's house, and for the sovereign's household to ride on, and the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine for the wearied to drink in the wilderness." And the sovereign said, "And where is the son of your master?" And Ziba said to the sovereign, "See, he remains in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel is going to return the reign of my father to me.' And the sovereign said to Ziba, 'See, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours.' And Ziba said, 'I have bowed myself. Let me find favor in your eyes, my master, O sovereign.' And when sovereign David came to Bahurim, he saw a man from the clan of the house of Shaul, whose name was Shimei, son of Gera, coming from there. He came out cursing as he came, and he pelted with stones David and all the servants of sovereign David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right and on his left. And this is what Shimei said as he cursed: get out, O man of blood and man of Belial. Yahweh has brought upon you all the blood of the house of Shaul, in whose place you have reigned. And Yahweh has given the reign into the hand of Absalom, your son. And see, you are in your own evil, for you are a man of blood." And Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said to the sovereign, "Why should this dead dog curse my master, the sovereign? Please let me pass over and take off his head." And the sovereign said, "What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? For let him curse, even because Yahweh has said to him, 'Curse David.' And who should say, 'Why did you do that?'" And David said to Abishai and all his servants, "See how my son, who came from my own body, seeks my life, and how much more now this Benjamite. Leave him alone and let him curse, for Yahweh has spoken to him. If so be Yahweh does look on my affliction, and Yahweh shall return good to me for his cursing today." And as David and his men went in the way, Shimei walked alongside him on the hillside and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him, and kicked up dust. And the sovereign and all the people who were with him became weary, and they refreshed themselves there. And Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with him. And it came to be when Hushai, the Archite, the friend of David, had come to Absalom, that Hushai said to Absalom, "Let the sovereign live, let the sovereign live." And Absalom said to Hushai, "Is this your loving commitment to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend?" And Hushai said to Absalom, "No, I am for the one whom Yahweh and this people and all the men of Israel have chosen, and with him I remain. And besides, whom should I serve? Should it not be before his son? As I have served before your father, so I am before you." And Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give your advice. What should we do?" And Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go into your father's concubines, whom he has left to look after the house, and all Israel shall hear that you have made yourself a stench to your father, and the hands of all who are with you shall be strong." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the top of the house, and Absalom went into his father's concubines before the eyes of all Israel. Now the advice of Ahithophel gave in those days was as if one had inquired at the word of Elohim. So was all the advice of Ahithophel, both to David and to Absalom. Chapter 17. And Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Please let me choose 12,000 men, and let me rise and pursue David tonight, and come upon him while he is weary and weak. And I shall make him afraid, and all the people who are with him shall flee. And I shall strike the sovereign alone, and bring back all the people to you. When all return except the man whom you seek, all the people should be at peace." And the saying pleased Absalom and all the elders of Israel. But Absalom said, "Now call Hushai the Archite also, and let us hear what he says too. And Hushai came to Absalom, and Absalom spoke to him, saying, Ahithophel has spoken according to this word. Should we do as he says? If not, speak up. And Hushai said to Absalom, the advice that Ahithophel has given is not good at this time. And Hushai said, you know your father and his men, that they are mighty men, and they are as bitter in being as a bear robbed of her cubs in the field. And your father is a man of battle, and would not spend the night with the people. See, by now he is hidden in some pit, or in some place, and it shall be, when some of them fall at first, that whoever hears it shall say, there has been a slaughter among the people who are following Absalom. And even he who is brave, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, would utterly melt, for all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are brave men. But I advise, let all Israel without fail be gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba, as numerous as the sand by the sea, and that you yourself go to battle. And we shall come upon him in some place where he is found, and fall on him as the dew falls on the ground, and there shall be left of him and of all the men with him not even one. And if he withdraws into a city, then all Israel shall bring ropes to that city, and we shall pull it into the wadi until there is not one small stone found there. Absalom and all the men of Israel then said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel. For Yahweh has ordained to nullify the good advice of Ahithophel for the sake of Yahweh bringing evil upon Absalom. Hushai then said to Zadok and to Abiathar, the priests, Ahithophel has advised Absalom and the elders of Israel such and such, but I have advised so and so. And now send hastily and inform David, saying, do not spend this night in the desert plains of the wilderness, but pass over without fail, lest the sovereign and all the people with him be swallowed up. And Jonathan and Ahimaaz were stationed at En Rogel, and a female servant would come and inform them, and they would go and inform sovereign David, for they could not be seen entering the city. But a youth saw them and informed Absalom, so the two of them went away at once and came to a man's house in Bahurim, who had a well in his courtyard, and they went down into it. And the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth, and spread ground grain on it, so the matter was not known. And the servants of Absalom came to the woman in the house and said, where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, they have passed over the stream of water. And they looked and did not find them, and returned to Jerusalem. And it came to be, after they had left, that they came up out of the well, and went and informed sovereign David, and said to David, arise and pass over the water quickly, for thus Ahithophel has advised against you. And David and all the people who were with him rose up and passed over the Jordan, and by morning light not even one remained who had not gone over the Jordan. And Ahithophel saw that his advice was not followed, so he saddled his donkey, and rose up, and went home to his house, to his city. Then he gave command to his house, and hanged himself, and died, and he was buried in his father's burial site. And David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom passed over the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom appointed Amasa over the army instead of Joab. Now Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Yithra, an Israeli, who had gone into Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. And Yisrael and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. And it came to be, when David had come to Mahanaim, that Shobi, son of Nahash, from Rabbah of the children of Ammon, and Machir, son of Amiel, from Lodebar, and Barizilai, the Gittite, from Rogelim, brought beds and basins and earthen vessels and wheat and barley and flour and roasted grain and beans and lentils and parched vegetables, and honey and curds and sheep and cheese of the herd for David and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. Chapter 18. And David mustered the people who were with him, and set commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds over them. And David sent out 1/3 of the people under the hand of Joab, and 1/3 under the hand of Abishai, son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai the Gittite. And the sovereign said to the people, I shall certainly go out with you too. But the people answered, do not go out, for if we flee away, they would not set heart upon us. Even if half of us die, they would not set heart upon us. For now 10,000 are like us. Therefore it is better for you to support us from the city. And the sovereign said to them, that which is good in your eyes I do. And the sovereign stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. And the sovereign ordered Joab and Abishai and Ittai, saying, be gentle with the young man Absalom for my sake. And all the people heard when the sovereign gave all the commanders orders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field to meet Israel, and the battle was in the forest of Ephraim. And the people of Israel were smitten there before the servant of David. And the slaughter there that day was great, 20,000. And the battle there was scattered over the face of all the land. And the forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And when Absalom met the servants of David, Absalom was riding on a mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great terebinth tree. And his head caught hold in the terebinth, and he was suspended between the heavens and earth, while the mule which was under him passed on. And a certain man saw it, and informed Joab, and said, look, I saw Absalom hanging in a terebinth tree. And Joab said to the man who informed him, now look, you saw, and why did you not strike him to the earth there? Then I would have given you 10 pieces of silver and a belt. But the man answered Joab, though I were to receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the son of the sovereign, because in our hearing the sovereign commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, take heed, you who go against the youth, against Absalom. Otherwise I would have been untrue to my own life. For no matter is hidden from the sovereign, and you yourself would have set yourself against me. And Joab said, let me not waste time here with you. And he took 3 spears in his hand, and thrust them through Absalom's heart, while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth tree. And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor went around and struck Absalom and put him to death. And Joab blew with the shofar, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab had held the people back. And they took Absalom and threw him into a large pit in the forest, and heaped a very large pile of stones over him. And all Israel fled, each one to his tent. And Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a monument for himself, which is in the sovereign's valley. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. And he called the monument after his own name. And to this day it is called Absalom's monument. And Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, please let me run and take the news to the sovereign, for Yahweh has avenged him of his enemies. But Joab said to him, you are not the man to take the news today, but you shall take the news another day. But today you do not take news, because the sovereign's son is dead. And Joab said to the Cushite, go inform the sovereign what you have seen. And the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said again to Joab, and whatever might be, please let me also run after the Cushite. And Joab said, why would you run, my son? There is no news to bring you reward. And whatever might be, he said, let me run. So he said to him, run. And Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain, and passed the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate, to the wall, and lifted his eyes and looked, and saw a man running alone. So the watchman called out and told the sovereign, and the sovereign said, if he is alone, there is news in his mouth. And he came nearer and nearer. And the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called out to the gatekeeper and said, see, a man running by himself. And the sovereign said, This one is also bringing news. And the watchman said, I see the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz, son of Zadok. And the sovereign said, this is a good man, and he comes with good news. And Ahimaaz called out and said to the sovereign, peace. Then he bowed down with his face to the earth before the sovereign and said, blessed be Yahweh your Elohim, who has surrendered the men who raised their hand against my master, the sovereign. And the sovereign said, peace to the young man, to Absalom. And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent to the sovereign's servant, and me your servant, I saw a great crowd, but I did not know why. And the sovereign said, turn aside and stand here. And he turned aside and stood still. And see, the Cushite came. And the Cushite said, receive news, my master, the sovereign, for Yahweh has avenged you this day, for all those who rose against you. And the sovereign said to the Cushite, peace to the young man, to Absalom. And the Cushite answered, let the enemies of my master the sovereign, and all who rise against you for evil, be as that young man is. And the sovereign was shaken, and went up to the room over the gate, and wept. And as he went, he said this, O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died instead of you, O Absalom, my son, my son. Chapter 19. And it was reported to Joab, see, the sovereign is weeping and mourning for Absalom. So the deliverance that day was turned into mourning for all the people. For the people heard on that day, saying, the sovereign has been grieved for his son. And the people stole back into the city that day, as people who are ashamed steal away when they flee in battle. And the sovereign covered his face, and the sovereign cried out with a loud voice, O my son, Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the sovereign and said, today you have put to shame all your servants, who today have saved your life, and the lives of your sons and daughters, and the lives of your wives, and the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you, and by hating those who love you. For you have made it clear today that you have neither commanders nor servants. For today I know that if Absalom had lived and all of us had died today, then it would be right in your eyes. And now arise, go out and speak to the heart of your servants. For I swear by Yahweh, if you do not go out, not one passes the night with you. And that is worse for you than all the evil that has come upon you from your youth until now. So the sovereign rose up and sat in the gate. And they told all the people, saying, look, the sovereign is sitting in the gate. And all the people came before the sovereign. As for Israel, they had fled, each one to his tent. And it came to be that all the people were contending throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, the sovereign delivered us from the hand of the enemies. He rescued us from the hand of the Philistines, and now he has fled from the land because of Absalom. And Absalom, who we anointed over us, has died in battle. And now, why are you silent about bringing back the sovereign? And sovereign David sent to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, saying, speak to the elders of Yehudah, saying, why are you the last to bring the sovereign back to his house? Since the words of all Israel have come to the sovereign to his house, you are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then are you the last to bring back the sovereign? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? Elohim, do so to me and more also, if you are not commander of the army before me all the days in place of Joab. Thus he swayed the hearts of all the men of Yehudah as one man, so that they sent to the sovereign, saying, return you and all your servants. So the sovereign returned and came to the Yarden, and Yehudah came to Gilgal to meet the sovereign, to bring the sovereign over the Yarden. And Shimei, son of Gera, a Benjamite, who was from Bahurim, hastened and came down with the men of Yehudah to meet sovereign David. And with him were 1,000 men of Benjamin, and Siba, the servant of the house of Shaul, and his 15 sons, and his 20 servants with him. And they rushed over the Yarden before the sovereign. And they passed over the ford to bring over the sovereign's household, and to do what was good in his eyes. And Shimei, son of Gera, fell down before the sovereign when he had passed over the Yarden, and said to the sovereign, do not let my master reckon crookedness to me, neither remember what wrong your servant did on that day, that my master the sovereign have left Jerusalem, that the sovereign should take it to heart. For I your servant know that I have sinned. And see, I have come today first of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my master the sovereign. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, answered and said, Should Shimei not be put to death for this, because he cursed the anointed of Yahweh? And David said, What have I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you are to be adversaries to me today? Should any man be put to death in Israel today? For do I not know that I am sovereign over Israel today? So the sovereign said to Shimei, You do not die. And the sovereign swore to him. And Mephibosheth, son of Shaul, came down to meet the sovereign. And he had not attended to his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his garments from the day the sovereign went away until the day he came back in peace. And it came to be, when he had come to Jerusalem to meet the sovereign, that the sovereign said to him, Why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? And he answered, My master, O sovereign, my servant deceived me. For your servant said, I am saddling a donkey for myself to ride on it, and go to the sovereign, because your servant is lame. And he spoke slander against your servant to my master the sovereign. But my master the sovereign is as a messenger of Elohim. Therefore, do what is good in your eyes. For all of my father's house were but dead men before my master the sovereign. Yet you set your servant among those who eat at your own table. Therefore, what right have I still to cry out any more to the sovereign? Then the sovereign said to him, Why do you speak any more of your matters? I have said, You and Ziba share the land. And Mephibosheth said to the sovereign, Rather let him take it all, since my master the sovereign has come back in peace to his own house. And Barzillai the Gittite came down from Rogelim and passed over the Jordan with the sovereign to send him on his way over the Jordan. And Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old, and he had sustained the sovereign while he was dwelling at Mahanaim, for he was a very rich man. And the sovereign said to Barzillai, Pass over with me, and I shall provide for you with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the sovereign, How many are the days of my life that I should go up with the sovereign to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Do I discern between the good and evil? Does your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Do I still hear the voice of singing men and singing women? Why then should your servant be a further burden to my master the sovereign? Your servant would only pass over the Jordan with the sovereign for a short distance, and why should the sovereign repay me with such a reward? Please let your servant turn back again to die in my own city, near the burial site of my father and mother. But here is your servant Kimham. Let him pass over with my master the sovereign, and do for him what is good in your eyes. And the sovereign answered, Kimham is passing over with me, and let me do for him what is good in your eyes. Now whatever you choose of me, I do for you. Then all the people went over the Jordan, and when the sovereign had passed over, the sovereign kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own place. And the sovereign passed over to Gilgal, and Kimham passed over with him. And all the people of Yehudah brought the sovereign over, and also half the people of Israel. And see, all the men of Israel were coming to the sovereign, and they said to the sovereign, Why have our brothers, the men of Yehudah, stolen you away, and brought the sovereign and his household, and all David's men with him over the Jordan? And all the men of Yehudah answered the men of Israel, Because the sovereign is our relative. And why are you displeased over this matter? Have we at all eaten at the sovereign's cost, or has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Yehudah and said, We have 10 parts in the sovereign, and in David too. We have more than you. Why then did you despise us? Was it not our advice first to bring back our sovereign? But the words of the men of Yehudah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. Chapter 20. And there came to be a man of Belial, whose name was Sheba, son of Bichri, a Benjamite. And he blew with the shofar and said, We have no part in David, nor do we have inheritance in the sons of Yishai, each one to his tents, O Israel. Then all the men of Israel deserted David to follow Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Yehudah from the Jordan as far as Jerusalem clung to their sovereign. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the sovereign took the 10 women, his concubines, whom he had left to look after the house, and put them in a protected house, and supported them, but did not go into them. So they were shut up to the day of their death, living in widowhood. And the sovereign said to Amasa, Call the men of Yehudah for me within 3 days, and be present here yourself. And Amasa went to call the men of Yehudah, but he delayed longer than the appointed time which David had appointed him. And David said to Abishai, Now Sheba son of Bichri is going to do us more evil than Absalom. Take the servants of your master and pursue him, lest he find for himself walled cities and escape us. Then the men of Joab went out after him with the Kerethites and the Pelethites and all the mighty men, and they went out of Jerusalem to pursue Sheba son of Bichri. When they were near the large stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa came before them, and Joab was dressed in battle armor, and on it was a girdle with a sword fastened in its sheath at his hips. And as he went forward, it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, Peace, my brother. And Joab took Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. But Amasa was not on guard against the sword in Joab's hand, and he struck him with it in the stomach, and his inward parts poured out on the ground, and he did not strike him again, and he died. Then Joab and Abishai his brother pursued Sheba son of Bichri. And a man, one of Joab's men, stood beside him and said, Whoever is well pleased with Joab, and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab. And Amasa was rolling in his blood in the middle of the highway, and the man saw that all the people stood still. So he moved Amasa from the highway to the field and threw a garment over him, when he saw that everyone who came upon him halted. When he was removed from the highway, all the men passed on after Joab to pursue Sheba son of Bichri. And he passed over through all the tribes of Israel to Abel and to Baeth Maacah and to the Berites, and they were assembled and went after him too. And they went and besieged him in Abel of Baeth Maacah, and they cast up a siege mound against the city, and it stood in a rampart. And all the people who were with Joab battered the wall to throw it down. Then a wise woman called out from the city, Listen, listen, please say to Joab, Come nearby so that I can speak to you. And he came near to her, and the woman said, Are you Joab? And he answered, I am. Then she said to him, Listen to the words of your female servant. And he answered, I am listening. Then she spoke, saying, In former times they often spoke, saying, Let them inquire of Abel. And so they ended the matter. I am of the peaceable and trustworthy ones in Israel. You seek to destroy a city and a mother in Israel. Why do you swallow up the inheritance of Yahweh? And Joab answered and said, Far be it from me to swallow up or to destroy. That is not the case, but a man from the mountains of Ephraim, Sheba son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against the sovereign, against David. Hand him over, him alone, and I withdraw from the city. And the woman said to Joab, Look, his head is going to be thrown to you over the wall. So the woman in her wisdom went to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba son of Bichri, and threw it out to Joab. Then he blew with the shofar, and they dispersed from the city, each one to his tent. And Joab returned to the sovereign at Jerusalem. Now Joab was over all the armies of Israel, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada was over the Kerethites and the Pelethites, and Adoram was over the compulsory labor, and Jehoshaphat son of Ahilud was recorder, and Sheba was scribe, and Sadok and Ebithar were the priests, and Ira the Yerite was priest to David. And that was 16 through 20. Shalom.